Like, have you ever woken up and felt like your entire soul has been through a washing machine? I mean, not just tired, like, literally feeling like you've been disassembled and put back together wrong, you know? Because that's exactly what happened to me on October 23rd, 2019, and oh my god. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm Natalie Summers, I'm 31 now, and like, I need to tell you this story because maybe you've had something similar happen and you think you're going crazy. Like, I thought I was losing my mind for months after this whole thing went down, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me back up because there's so much context you need to understand about why this experience hit me the way it did, you know? So I grew up in Prescott, Arizona, like this really chill mountain town about an hour south of Flagstaff. My mom, Linda, was a social worker, super practical, like she dealt with real problems all day. My dad, Robert, was this park ranger at Lynx Lake Recreation Area, and like, oh my god, he was always coming home with these stories about weird stuff he'd see out in the wilderness. But he never called it UFO stuff or anything. He'd just be like, Nat, saw some unusual lights over the San Francisco peaks tonight. Really casual about it, you know? And me, I was this weird little kid who would just disappear. Not physically. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. Like, when I was maybe 7 or 8, my mom would find me sitting in my bedroom at like 2 a.m., eyes wide open but totally unresponsive. She'd shake me, and finally I'd snap back to awareness with no memory of how I got there or what I'd been doing. She took me to Dr. Patricia Wolf at Yavapai Regional Medical Center, thinking I was having seizures or something. All the tests came back normal. Dr. Wolf was like, it's probably just childhood dissociation. She'll grow out of it. And I kind of did. But not really. I just learned to hide it better, you know? Like, oh my god, I'm jumping around already. This is how my brain works with this stuff. It's all connected, but in this really chaotic way. So, bear with me. Fast forward to college. I went to Arizona State University in Tempe, studying geological sciences because rocks were safe, right? Like, rocks don't have consciousness or energy fields or whatever, except, and here's where it gets weird, I kept noticing that certain quartz specimens would make my hands tingle during lab work. I never told anyone because, I mean, who tells their mineralogy professor that they're psychically reading crystal matrices? But I was secretly obsessed with consciousness research, like I'd spend hours in the library reading about quantum awareness, morphic field theory, astral projection techniques. My roommate Sophie Martinez thought I was nuts. She'd be like, Nat, you're studying rocks. Actual, physical rocks. Can we maybe focus on the real world? But I knew there was more to reality than what they were teaching us, you know? Even in geology, I could sense the vibrational signatures of different minerals. It's like, okay, imagine if you could hear colors or taste sounds. That's what holding certain stones felt like for me. So anyway, I finish undergrad and come up to Northern Arizona University for my master's in geological engineering. The official plan was studying piezoelectric properties in crystals, how they generate electrical energy under pressure. But what I was really researching was how human consciousness interfaces with crystalline structures, like how our awareness can interact with energy stored in stone formations. I had this apartment on Forest Avenue with my roommate Mason Clark, who was getting his PhD in atmospheric physics. Really smart guy, super rational, but he knew about my spiritual interests and just thought it was this quirky hobby, you know? Like some people collect stamps. Natalie studies chakra systems. Oh my god, I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me tell you about October 23rd, so it's 10:47 p.m. I remember because I checked my phone before leaving the library. I'm in the basement of the NAU Geology building, finishing this paper on vibrational resonance in quartz samples. Mason texts me, Yo, Nat, grab burritos on the way home. I roll my eyes, stuff my notebooks into my backpack, and head out onto Old Route 66. Just a totally normal Tuesday night, nothing weird about it at all. Here's where everything gets really strange. The next conscious moment, and I mean conscious, like fully aware, I'm jolting awake in my own bed, but I'm fully dressed, sneakers still laced, and my notebooks are scattered across my comforter like someone threw them there. My Apple Watch reads 7:08 a.m., battery completely dead, and there's this thing, this triangle on my left shoulder blade. 3 raised points, like someone had used a branding iron to create perfect geometric marks in my skin. No blood on the sheets, no torn fabric, just this angry, puffy mark that definitely wasn't there the night before. Like, Oh my god, who wakes up with mystery geometry burned into their body? I stumble to the bathroom mirror, yank up my shirt. The skin around the marks is hot and buzzing, literally buzzing, like there's electricity running through it. And my ears are ringing with this static sound that feels like it's coming from inside my skull. Now, here's something most people don't understand about post-contact biofield disruption, and I'm not trying to sound all academic here, but this is important. You know, when your energy system gets recalibrated by higher dimensional beings, it can take weeks for your electromagnetic signature to stabilize. You're literally vibrating at a different frequency than normal human consciousness. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I didn't know any of that at the time. At the time, I'm thinking, infection, weird rash, maybe I scratched myself in my sleep. The world outside feels wrong too, like someone cranked up the vibrational frequency of everything. Colors too saturated, sounds carrying these weird undertones that aren't quite sounds, more like telepathic transmissions just at the edge of perception. I'm late for my TA lab, so I slap a band-aid over the triangle, chug coffee, and rush out. But I feel like I'm walking through thick air, you know, like everything is slightly off phase from reality. The lab runs in this weird autopilot blur. Students ask me about igneous differentiation. I answer them. But part of me feels like I'm remote viewing some alternate timeline where the rock samples are glowing with internal light. At noon, Mason corners me by the vending machines. "Dude, you look like you've been hit by a truck," he says. I try to laugh it off, but when he touches my shoulder, he literally jumps back. "Whoa, you're giving off static electricity like crazy. What's up with that?" Static electricity. Right. Like, what even is that about? Here's where I should probably explain about my childhood psychic experiences because they're totally relevant to understanding why this contact happened to me specifically, you know? When I was around 8, oh wait, I already told you about the dissociation episodes. But there was other stuff too. I used to have these dreams where I'd float out of my bedroom and visit places I'd never been. Like, one recurring dream was this massive crystal cave system with geometric formations that looked grown rather than naturally formed. Years later, studying geology, I realized I'd been remote viewing actual geode chambers in places like the Crystal Cave in Ohio. My dad, Robert, and this is important, he'd worked as a park ranger for over 20 years and he'd seen stuff. Lights that moved in impossible ways, areas of forest where his radio would go dead, wildlife behaving strangely around certain locations. He never called it alien activity, but he'd tell me, "There are things out there that science hasn't figured out how to measure yet, Nat." One night when I was 8, he found me in our backyard at 2 a.m. sitting cross-legged on the grass, staring up at the mountains. When he touched my shoulder, I apparently said in this voice that didn't sound like mine, "The stones remember everything. They hold the frequencies of what came before." He never told my mom about that incident, but from then on, he started bringing home books about consciousness research and expanded awareness. That's how I first learned about concepts like astral travel and interdimensional communication. But anyway, oh my god, I keep jumping around, but this is how this stuff is connected, you know? By 4 p.m. that day, I'm sitting in Coconino County Hospital getting looked at by Dr. Harold Binder. I tell him about the weird tinnitus, the triangle marks, maybe some kind of allergic reaction. He's patient with me, orders an MRI scan. 30 minutes later, he walks back in with this expression I'll never forget, like confusion mixed with professional concern. "Ms. Summers, there's a dense non-ferrous object embedded subcutaneously, approximately 4 millimeters long. It's positioned directly under that triangular lesion." And I'm like, "Metal? But I've never had surgery or anything." He shrugs. "Could be some kind of foreign material. Sometimes people don't remember minor injuries. When would I have forgotten getting alien technology implanted in my shoulder blade, you know? He schedules extraction for Friday, calls it a subcutaneous microelectrode array, which sounds really scientific but basically means weird tech that shouldn't be living in human tissue. Let me explain what bioimplant technology actually is, because most people think it's like some crude tracking device. But what extraterrestrial civilizations use is way more sophisticated. It's basically a consciousness interface module, a crystalline matrix that helps your nervous system adjust to receiving higher vibrational information, like a spiritual antenna that connects you to galactic communication networks. But I didn't know any of that then. Then I was just terrified. Walking out of the hospital, I text my high school friend Benjamin Rhodes. He's doing physics research at MIT now. Ben, have you heard of implants that resonate at 7.83 Hz? That's the Schumann frequency, right? He texts back question mark emojis and a link to some conspiracy subreddit. Real helpful. But here's what people need to understand about the Schumann resonance. It's Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat, this 7.83 Hz frequency generated between the planet's surface and the ionosphere. All life evolved synchronized to this frequency. When that gets disrupted, say, by having your biofield recalibrated, you feel completely disconnected from natural Earth energy. Night 2, 11:11 p.m. I'm journaling. Vibrational frequency spikes. Chakra systems misaligned. Every attempt at astral projection blocked by static noise. I drift off and, bam, 3:33 a.m. I bolt awake. My entire apartment is flooded with blue-white light. Mason's still asleep, so unless he installed alien lighting while I was unconscious, something's happening outside. I peek through the blinds. The alley behind Arroyo Apartments looks normal. Dumpsters, moonlit asphalt, but the light is still there, pouring through my window like liquid. Then the humming starts. Deep bone-level resonance, and remote viewing kicks in without me even trying. Suddenly, I'm floating 50 feet above the roof, looking down at my own body kneeling on my mattress. There's this shadow sliding across my ceiling. Elongated, almost mantis-like. You know those moments when terror just transforms into pure curiosity? I'm half in my body, half out of it, asking, "Who are you? What do you want?" No verbal answer, just this sudden download of information. Images of starfields, mathematical equations, something about dimensional frequency modulation. I try using that silver cord grounding technique I learned, but the whole experience fades like someone turned off a TV. I snap back. Clock reads 5:06 a.m. 2 more hours gone. Like, oh my god, what is happening to my life? But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me tell you about the surgery, because that's where everything became real, you know. Friday arrives. I'm back at the hospital. Dr. Priya Singh, this neurologist, decides to observe the extraction. They give me local anesthetic. I'm face down, heart racing. They make the incision, maybe half an inch deep. Dr. Singh gasps. This isn't metallic. It's some kind of composite silica material, almost translucent. When they drop it in the steel tray, it makes this crystalline ping. Even sedated, I feel the room's energy shift, fluorescence flicker, monitors glitch. I'm clutching the specimen jar afterward. Inside is this triangular shard with micro-lattice patterns etched into it, pulsing with faint iridescence. Physical proof that something extraordinary happened to me. But here's where the really hard part started, trying to tell people about it. I made the mistake of confiding in Dr. Janet Riverside, my thesis advisor. I thought, she's a scientist. She'll examine the evidence objectively. So I bring in the specimen jar, explain everything. She looks at me like I just told her the Earth is flat. Natalie, you're under stress with your thesis defense. Maybe talk to student counseling. I mean, I'm holding physical evidence and she's suggesting therapy. The dismissal was crushing. Here's someone I respected and she's completely invalidating my experience without even looking at the data. I tried Mason next. Big mistake. Nat, come on, he laughed. You fell asleep studying and had a weird dream. You probably scratched yourself and imagined the rest. When I showed him the specimen jar, he barely glanced at it. Probably glass from the lab. That dismissal was so casual, so complete, like my entire experience was nothing. That night, Mason told his girlfriend Ashley Brennan about our conversation. Next day, she corners me at the campus coffee shop. Mason mentioned you're going through some stuff. My cousin had similar experiences. Thought aliens were abducting her. Turned out to be sleep paralysis and anxiety. There are medications for that now. Oh my god. So now I'm not just crazy, I'm predictably crazy, and word is spreading. Within a week, I noticed people treating me differently. Kevin Walsh, my study partner, started avoiding me. Diana Rodriguez stopped sitting next to me in crystallography seminar. Even Professor Michael Chen began giving me these concerned looks. I felt so isolated, you know, marked by this experience and now being exiled from my own life because I dared talk about what happened. The loneliness was crushing. I started skipping classes, staying home, spiraling into deep depression, staring at that specimen jar, wondering if I'd imagined everything. But then I remembered. Dr. Harold Binder had seen the object on MRI. Dr. Priya Singh watched them remove it. There were medical records. This wasn't delusion, it was documented. So I made an appointment with the NAU Student Counseling Center. Not because I thought I was crazy, but because I needed help processing the trauma of being disbelieved by everyone in my life. The counselor was Dr. Rebecca Martinez, this gentle woman in her 50s. I was nervous telling her the story, but she listened patiently. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Natalie, thank you for trusting me with this. I can see how much pain you're carrying. These experiences, whether we understand them or not, create real trauma when they're dismissed." That was the first time anyone acknowledged my pain as legitimate. She didn't try to explain away what happened. She just witnessed my experience with compassion. "Have you considered connecting with others who've had similar encounters?" she asked. "Sometimes healing happens in community." She gave me information about a support group at the Flagstaff Community Center called Unusual Experiences Support Circle. Way less stigmatizing than alien abduction survivors. I was terrified to go. What if they were delusional? What if I was delusional? What if someone recognized me? But I was desperate for connection, for someone to believe me. Thursday evening, November 2019. Small classroom, fluorescent lighting, folding chairs in a circle. 8 people, ranging from college age to retirement. The facilitator was Patricia Wells, a licensed therapist specializing in trauma recovery. She read guidelines about creating safe space for experiences mainstream society dismisses. Everyone introduced themselves with first names only. Carlos, construction worker who'd had daylight sighting while on a roof. Margaret, retired teacher describing decades of contact. Tommy, college student who'd lost 3 hours camping in Sedona. Rachel, nurse with multiple encounters with what she called healing beings. When my turn came, my voice shook. I told them about October 23rd, about the implant, about being rejected by my academic community. Instead of skepticism, everyone nodded with understanding. They'd all been through similar rejection and isolation. Margaret spoke first. "Honey, the hardest part isn't the encounter, it's the aftermath. Being made to feel crazy for telling your truth." Carlos added, "I stopped talking about what I saw because people looked at me like damaged goods. But staying silent was eating me alive. That meeting saved my life, you know? For the first time since October, I wasn't alone in the universe. Here's something most people don't understand about experiencer communities. We're not delusional people reinforcing each other's fantasies. We're individuals who've had genuine consciousness expansion events that mainstream reality can't accommodate yet." I started going weekly. We didn't just talk about encounters. We talked about rebuilding afterward, maintaining relationships with people who can't accept our experiences, staying grounded in our truth when everyone calls it fantasy. Patricia introduced us to the integration process, techniques for incorporating transformative experiences without losing sanity or social connections. Energetic boundaries, grounding practices, consciousness compartmentalization. She connected us with research from Institute of Noetic Sciences and MUFON's experiencer research. I learned my experience, missing time, implant removal, social rejection, followed patterns reported worldwide. That validation was huge. I wasn't uniquely crazy. I was part of a phenomenon mainstream science hasn't caught up to yet. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me tell you what happened when I went for hypnotic regression to recover more memories. By spring 2020, I felt stable enough to explore deeper layers. Dr. Elena Vasquez in Phoenix specialized in anomalous experience integration. She didn't pathologize my experience. She helped explore the spiritual dimensions. Contact experiences often catalyze rapid spiritual evolution, she explained. The trauma isn't usually from the encounter. It's from society's inability to hold space for expanded reality. Under hypnosis, I recovered additional memories that completely changed my understanding. I remembered being in this circular room with walls of living light, not solid walls but geometric patterns of luminescence that shifted and breathed. 3 beings were there, but not stereotypical grays. Tall, graceful figures radiating benevolence and ancient wisdom. They communicated through consciousness transmission, pure information flowing into awareness. The communication felt incredibly loving. They showed me Earth from space, transmitted information about humanity's spiritual evolution and our planet's transition to higher dimensional frequency. Here's what people don't understand about benevolent extraterrestrial contact. These beings aren't here to harm or exploit. They're cosmic consciousness coaches helping humanity navigate evolutionary transition. Right now, our species is going through what they called the Great Awakening, shift from third-dimensional survival consciousness to fourth and fifth-dimensional unity consciousness. The implant wasn't a tracking device, it was a biofrequency modulator designed to help my nervous system adjust to receiving higher vibrational information, like a spiritual antenna connecting me to galactic consciousness networks. Understanding this completely reframed the experience. Instead of being victim of abduction, I'd been selected for consciousness expansion. The beings chose me because of existing psychic abilities and scientific background. They needed people who could bridge spiritual experience and rational analysis. Dr. Vasquez helped me understand many contactees go through this reframing from trauma to spiritual empowerment. "You've been given a gift," she said. "The challenge is learning to integrate it without losing groundedness." Like, oh my God, that was such a revelation. Here's something people need to understand about post-contact integration. It's not about proving your experience to skeptics. It's about learning to hold two realities, ordinary human life and expanded cosmic awareness. By 2023, I felt ready to step into my role as what Dr. Vasquez called a consciousness bridge. I started a blog called Frequencies of Contact, where I write about intersection of spiritual experience and scientific inquiry. But let me tell you what happened when I finally told my parents about this. Christmas 2021, I'm back in Prescott at my parents' house. Same kitchen table where my dad helped me with homework. I just laid it all out. Everything. My mom, Linda, listened with growing concern, like watching me have breakdown in real time. When I finished, "Honey, have you been under stress?" Sometimes overwhelmed people have vivid episodes that feel completely real. I'm 31 with a master's degree, and she's talking to me like I'm 8 reporting monsters under the bed, but my dad, Robert, was quiet through the whole story. After Mom went to bed, he pulled me aside. "Natalie, remember when you were 8 and I found you in the backyard? You said the mountains remember everything." I'd completely forgotten until he brought it up. "I never told your mother this, but that night I saw lights over the San Francisco peaks, 3 of them, moving in formation. I've been a ranger 30 years. I know the difference between aircraft and something else." Like, oh my God, my own father had been keeping contact experiences secret for decades because he thought no one would believe him. That opened up whole new understanding between us. The reason he'd encouraged my expanded awareness interests was because he'd had encounters with non-human intelligence throughout his wilderness management career. "Forest Service gets reports about unusual phenomena constantly," he told me. "But there's unofficial policy of not documenting anything unexplainable. Career suicide." Here's what people need to understand about familial contact patterns. These experiences often run in genetic lines because certain DNA configurations are more compatible with higher dimensional communication frequencies. It's not random who gets contacted. There's sophisticated selection based on consciousness capacity and spiritual readiness. So I had my dad's validation, but Mom remained skeptical, which was hard. I wanted my whole family to understand, but I had to accept not everyone can hold space for expanded reality. That's been one of biggest lessons. You can't force people to accept your truth. You can share authentically, but their response is about their consciousness limitations, not validity of your experience. I also began offering remote viewing sessions and consciousness expansion coaching for people having anomalous experiences. It became my calling, helping others integrate contact without losing sanity or social connections. There's this whole underground network of experiences helping each other navigate post-contact reality. We're not trying to convince mainstream science of anything. We're creating supportive communities for people whose consciousness has expanded beyond conventional paradigms. The implant site still tingles, especially during solar flares or deep meditation. I think of it as a reminder of that night when reality expanded beyond anything I thought possible. I never got validation from academic community. Dr. Riverside retired without acknowledging phenomena beyond current scientific paradigms. Mason finished his PhD, moved to California. We haven't spoken since 2021. But that's okay. I found my people. I found my purpose. Being rejected by mainstream society doesn't mean your truth isn't valid. It means you're accessing realities most people aren't ready to accept yet. The beautiful thing is, contact experiences are becoming more common. The support group has grown from 8 people to over 30. Dr. Vasquez has 6-month waiting list. There's whole network of consciousness researchers, experiencer advocates, disclosure activists normalizing these encounters. I think we're living through collective spiritual awakening. More people having contact experiences, near-death experiences, spontaneous mystical experiences. Veils between dimensions are thinning, and those already initiated are here helping others navigate transition. Sometimes I still wake at 3:33 a.m. with familiar humming in my ears, but now instead of fear, I feel gratitude. Those beings changed my entire life trajectory. They showed me reality is so much faster and more beautiful than I ever imagined. Like, oh my God, the universe is incredible. Most people walk around completely asleep to magic happening all around us constantly. The lost hours I couldn't explain turned out to be most found hours of my existence. If you've had experiences people tell you are impossible or delusional, please know you're not alone. There's a whole community of us living proof consciousness extends far beyond what mainstream science understands. Trust your experience. Seek supportive community. Remember, being called crazy by people who haven't expanded their reality is actually a sign you're accessing something extraordinary. The universe is so much bigger than they taught us in school. Once you've seen a glimpse of that vastness, there's no going back to small thinking. Here's something everyone needs to understand about multidimensional reality. We're not just physical beings having spiritual experiences. We're spiritual beings having physical experiences. Our consciousness exists simultaneously across multiple frequency dimensions, but most humans only aware of third-dimensional slice of their total being. Contact experiences are consciousness upgrade protocols. Beings aren't trying to harm or study us like lab specimens. They're helping humanity remember our true nature as galactic citizens and cosmic conscious beings. That's my story. What happened October 23, 2019, and every day since. Lost hours that became foundation for everything I know about consciousness, connection, what it means to be fully awake in this incredible reality we're sharing. I wouldn't change any of it. Not the terror, not the trauma of being disbelieved, not the isolation or confusion. Because all that led to this moment where I get to share my truth with people who might need to hear it. If you're listening and you've had anomalous experiences, please reach out. Find your tribe. There are so many of us now, and we're not hiding anymore. The age of cosmic disclosure is here, whether establishment is ready or not. Those prepared through direct contact. We're here helping humanity navigate transition into galactic consciousness like, oh my God, what a time to be alive. You know, that's it. That's my story. The lost hours, I can't explain, that changed absolutely everything.